Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Hello and welcome to the Dave Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and I'm here to break down every episode of the hit FXX comedy series. If you're a fan of Lil Dicky and his unique brand of hilarious and irreverent comedy, then this is the podcast for you. So sit back, relax, and let's submerge ourselves into the world of Dave. This episode, I am talking about Dave Season 3, Episode 3, Hearsay. This episode aired April 12th, 2023, directed by Tony Yacinda, the person who brought us American Vandal, as well as the show Players, both amazing shows. So check those out, and he directed this episode. The gang is in Atlanta, Georgia, where GaTa is from. This episode focuses primarily on Dave and GaTa. The others have a small moment in this episode, but primarily we're focused on Dave and GaTa. GaTa is trying to get Rick Ross to sign off on a track that he wants to use that already has Rick Ross had already rapped on a track, and GaTa wants to use it for his upcoming album or for a track of his own. Dave gets a tweet from Killer Mike, or has Killer Mike retweet one of Dave's tweets, which causes him stress the entire time he's there. Dave and GaTa get robbed in this episode, and something very important to Rick Ross was stolen in that moment. And GaTa also has to make a tough decision involving one of his old friends. So let's get into the details of this episode, as I do on every episode of this recap podcast. We are in Atlanta, Georgia, as I mentioned. GaTa talking to two dudes in the driveway, two of his friends in the driveway with one of those slingshot cars, right? The cars that have the two front wheels and the one rear wheel, that's parked in the driveway there. And these are his old friends, and they're talking about his new life as VMA GaTa, like he's a new man now that he's been on the VMAs, and they're loving his new jewelry. GaTa's more excited about the new song that he has coming out, that he's working on, obviously that he has to get Rick Ross to sign off on. He asked Dave to tell them about the song that he has with Rick Ross, and Dave goes into the details of that, saying that it's a song that was produced by Benny. The beat was produced by Benny, obviously the guy that Dave worked with. And Rick Ross had rapped on it years ago, and then GaTa rapped on it, so they technically have never even met. Rick doesn't know who GaTa is, and GaTa's kind of mad, just kind of wanting Dave to give them the altered version, to make it sound like GaTa is doing work with Rick Ross instead of the reality of the situation. But GaTa does have a plan to get Rick Ross to sign off on the track so he can use it. And Dave is more focused on the fact that Killer Mike retweeted one of Lil Dicky's, saying that he's in Atlanta, and Rick Ross says he doesn't know this man. And he's trying to find out what that means. GaTa's friends remind Dave that Killer Mike is super political, so maybe it has something to do with that. And Dave is now wondering if maybe he thinks Rick knows. Maybe he thinks that Killer thinks he's bad for the rap community, that Dave is bad for the rap community. Anyway, cut to a strip club where there is gorgeous, uncensored breasts. I don't know if this is specific to Hulu. I haven't had cable since the early 2000s. I can't imagine they had naked breasts on cable TV, just regular cable TV. I thought it had to be, I don't know. Either way, they're at a strip club, and you get to see a bunch of gorgeous breasts in this scene. You have Dave making it rain on strippers with Rick Ross. Dave warning the dancers that if he touches them, he'll get hard just instantly if he touches them. And he tells Rick Ross not to get him a lap dance. Do not get me a lap dance or he will just be extremely hard the whole time. Of course, Rick Ross gives him a what the fuck kind of a look. What are you even talking about? You're supposed to get hard when they give you a lap dance. It's very normal. But, of course, the way Dave brings it up is very awkward. And Dave tells him this story about Thanksgiving where his 11-year-old cousin was sitting on his lap and he was so proud of himself because nothing moved. I don't know how old Dave was in this story. And, of course, Rick Ross gives the look like, what the fuck are you even talking about? What does that even mean? Cut to GaTa asking his friend if he wants to go over and hang out with Rick Ross and Dave, where they are in their kind of VIP section. And GaTa tries to make his friend put on a shirt that says security on it. And Dave complaining about his show not selling out, blaming it on the tweet that Killer Mike posted. And Dave asking Rick if he knows Killer Mike and if he likes him or if he thinks he's an asshole. And Rick's like says he knows him and that he's his homie. And he's one of the smartest motherfuckers he knows. And Dave asks how much Rick's chain costs that he's wearing. His giant chain, got the giant diamond-encrusted R. And he asks how much it costs, and he says it's $25,000. And Dave's like, oh, that's surprising. It's $25,000. That's not that much. And Rick's like, no, $250,000. $250,000. Who would have thought? Who thinks a quarter is 25,000? A quarter of 100,000? Come on. Then he puts the chain on Dave, and it's like the moment Dave brings up the chain, I have a feeling I know where this is going. And then when Rick puts the chain, this $250,000 piece of jewelry on Dave's neck, I know this is going to go badly. I am already stressed out with the fact that Dave has a $250,000 piece of jewelry around his neck. Dave Bird, right? This is not a person that would ever have a $250,000 piece of jewelry on his neck, right? And now he does, and it's somebody that he doesn't really, somebody that's way above him in the kind of business that he's in. So he invites Dave over to a get-together, a brunch that he's having where he's going to have a bunch of wealthy business owners and entrepreneurs over at his place. Meanwhile, you see GaTa and his buddy, right, being hassled by Rick Ross's or maybe just the security at the strip club. But they're not letting GaTa and his buddy go over there, right? They're holding him back. GaTa's trying to explain that Dave is his buddy. He opens for Dave, and this is his security and all this kind of stuff. And they're not falling for it. So they get a hold. They flag Dave down. And Dave tells Rick Ross that he'll be right back. But Rick is not focused at all on what's going on when Dave does that. He's more focused on the dancers. Dave goes over, gets them in. And Dave's wearing this giant piece of jewelry, and Sarah's telling them that he feels very Malibu's Most Wanted, which is a hilarious reference to a very funny movie. And when Dave gets back, Rick is gone. And I'm already nervous. I'm having a panic attack that Dave has this necklace, and now Rick is gone. It's like, this is not going to, just setting up for something to not go well. Right? Cut to them in a convenience store. Dave took the necklace off and is now just holding it. Just making the situation even more nerve-wracking. Right? Asking GaTa why Rick would let him wear it. GaTa's like, it means that he trusts you. Dave thinks it's just because he has a lack of judgment. GaTa's friend says it's because the motherfucker's rich. All of which could be true. He definitely is rich. He can afford it. Probably has a level of trust in Dave. But also probably not the best judgment in giving Dave this necklace. And Dave tells him about this brunch that he's invited to that's happening tomorrow. And he's also wondering if Killer Mike's going to be there, right? Because that's Dave's biggest worry is this Killer Mike situation, obviously. And as Dave and GaTa are walking out, right, their buddy's still in the convenience store, Dave and GaTa walking out, the necklace is, right, like, the necklace isn't in sight. So I'm thinking when they walk out that maybe he, like, left it on the countertop. Like, I'm expecting Dave to be, this necklace to be removed from Dave in some way. So when they walk out, I'm like, and I don't see it, I'm like, he left it somewhere. He's going to lose it, and now he's got it, and that's what the episode is going to be, him trying to track down this necklace. But I was wrong. Because just as they walk out, these dudes with ski masks on, balaclavas on, come up and rob him, right? Hold him up at gunpoint. Dave, who just took a bite of a hot dog, starts choking, right? And they're all confused. They're all, what is going on with this guy? And he's like choking, like clearly signaling, and GaTa can't do anything because he's got guns pointed at him. And the other guys are like, well, we going to do, we should probably do something. And one guy's like, I'll give him the Heimlich maneuver. And he's like, no, don't touch him. You'll put evidence on him. He's like, what am I going to put motherfucking fingerprints on this guy? I got to help save him from dying, right? We just want their shit. We don't need them dying on us, right? They're all confused. Dave eventually is able to cough up the bite of hot dog on his own. And they take the chain, they take his wallet. Dave pleads with them to give him his ID back because he doesn't want to have to go to the DMV because it's just a hassle. Right? He's going to have to wait until he gets back in town, back in LA, to go to the DMV to get a replacement. So they give him his ID back, right? So there's some sympathy there. And they both get on the ground. You know, they put both of them on their knees, and Dave and GaTa are kind of covering up as these guys run off. And GaTa's buddy finally comes out of the convenience store and sees them both on their knees in the parking lot, and he's asking him, it's like, wait, you guys praying right now? What are you guys doing? You guys Muslim? You praying to Mecca? I don't even think that's the right direction. Cut to GaTa starting to call around all of his friends, all the people he knows, to see if any of them have heard of a white guy getting his chain snatched. Dave wants to call the cops. Obviously, GaTa doesn't want to do that. It's like, you don't want to have Rick Ross tied up in something with the cops. Like, you don't want to have to do that. So GaTa's trying to do it in his way. Then Dave suggests that he can just explain the situation to Rick Ross and that he'll be understanding. And GaTa is like, you're ridiculous. He's determined to find this because he wants, GaTa still needs Rick Ross to sign off on this track that he wants to put out. And he's not going to be able to do that if Dave goes to him and just explains that he lost a $250,000 piece of jewelry, right? It doesn't look good on Dave. GaTa's attached to Dave. It's not going to help GaTa get what he needs out of this situation. So Dave doesn't get why someone needs to wear a necklace to begin with like that, right? Just to look cool. And GaTa tells him to stop oversimplifying things. It's not just about looking cool. And Dave brings up GaTa making his friend wear a security shirt to make him look cool, right? So it's like, well, what am I, Then Dave gets a DM from Rick Ross with a link to a live video of the guys that robbed them live streaming, showing off the chain that they got. Then Rick Ross calls Dave, and Dave, whose fingers are covered with barbecue sauce, because, of course, after getting robbed, who isn't hungry for barbecue? So not wanting to get his phone covered in barbecue sauce is trying to get GaTa to answer it. But doesn't. So Dave answers it and tries to play it off like they didn't know it was, they didn't know it was Rick's chain. Like maybe they think it's Robert De Niro. And Rick's like, they're tagging me in the video. They know it's mine, Dave. It's like, you're an idiot, right? Dave just trying to do his best, but... And like Rick asking like if Dave is punking him, and Dave's like, I don't have any association with Punked the show. I don't know Ashton. I know you wouldn't like that, so I'm not doing that, right? Meanwhile, Dave trying to lick his fingers off while on FaceTime with Rick, and Rick's like, what are you doing right now? Are you licking your fingers right now? And Rick tells him to get the chain back now or else he's going to be blackballed, right? Get this thing back or you're done, right? Your career is done. Let's take a quick break from this episode to talk about attention all Ray Taylor Show fans. We're excited to announce we've just released a line of exclusive merchandise featuring original artwork inspired by the show. Our high-quality shirts and biodegradable phone cases are a perfect way to show your support for the show and make a great gift for any fan. Plus, with each purchase, you'll be helping us continue to bring you great content. So don't wait. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com now and check out the full collection. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll show your support by grabbing some Ray Taylor Show merchandise today. And now, let's get back to the show. So GaTa sees something in the video, in the live video that these criminals posted that he recognized. Right, so he's got a lead. So he goes to this guy he knows that, runs in the import-export business. He deals with merchandise that sometimes falls off of a truck, right? Some guy that, rappers who also steal chains would also get maybe furs from, get nice clothing from, right? So GaTa knows this guy. They show up. And the dude's got one of those robotic dogs that are being implemented in police departments now. And Dave is so distracted with this dog, playing with this dog. Meanwhile, GaTa knows this guy, and he's like, shows him the video and finds out who these guys are and gets their number. So GaTa calls him, and they want $50,000 for the chain. Not a bad deal, $50,000 for a $200,000 chain. $250,000 chain. But Dave doesn't like the aggression GaTa's got. Like, he's nervous, right? And asking him to kind of operate under the assumption that don't act so hard because I'm part of you. Dave is part of the GaTa Dave crew. So GaTa should be operating under the assumption that they are half bitch. Right? GaTa's trying to tell him to stop acting like a bitch. And he's like, look at who I am. That is who I am. So you need to operate under the fact that in this duo, half of us is half bitch. Right? And Dave doesn't want to pay $50K. GaTa's like, $50K is like $5 to you. And Dave's like, you don't know my finances. Okay? It's $50K is $50K. Right? Things aren't going as good as you think, GaTa. So they decide that they will give him the chain in exchange for Rick Ross doing a verse on one of their tracks. So Dave tells GaTa, you have him on a track, give him what you have on your hard drive in exchange for this. And they're going to do the exchange in the morning. Dave gives a very bitch-like goodbye, and thank you for working with us on this, right? Cut to Mike, Els, and Emma playing a game in the tour bus. I forget what the game... I definitely played this game at parties in the past, drinking game, where you try to get people to say the magic word, and you give them clues on it. So they're playing this game. They're all drunk. Els accidentally gets Emma's... clothes dirty, that's dry clean only, so she's all pissed off. We find out that Els owes Emma $600 and owes Mike $500. Els is broke, right? He hasn't made any money because all the songs that he worked on never got released, so he never got any of that publishing money, right? And he got tired of asking his parents for money, so he started asking them. And he's complaining the fact that not only that he's broke, but that he hasn't been able to afford even a haircut, right? Something he's not lined up correctly, something he needs to get done regularly, and he hasn't been able to do that, right? So they try to make him feel better, right? They're still having a good time. cut to the next morning where they're all passed out, drunk. Mike is awake, and somebody shows up to the tour bus. They were all hanging out in the tour bus, by the way. So somebody shows up to the tour bus, and it's a barber that Mike called and had come over to cut Elle's hair. So it's a nice little moment where clearly Mike cares about Els and is doing this nice thing for Els, who is, not feeling good about his situation, being broke, can't even afford to get his hair cut, right? So, and Els gives him a nice hug. So it's a sweet moment, and it's the only real moment, aside from the end of this episode, where we see any of them, because the majority of this episode is dealing with GaTa and Dave, which we cut back to GaTa and Dave. Going to get the chain. They show up to this house and they walk around the back of the house, which just makes me nervous, walking around the back of somebody's house you don't know, right? It's just like walking around people's property, especially in America and especially in states that may have very lax or non-existent gun laws, right? Like you walk around somebody's house in Florida or Texas where just like any person can have a gun and can kill you for little to no reason, just makes me nervous. But they go around back, and GaTa's friend couldn't join, which GaTa's kind of bummed. It's like, we could have used an extra person. You never know what's going to go down here. But his friend had to work, so he couldn't show up. So they go, and they go in, knock on the door, and they go in, and GaTa tries to sell them, instead of on the verse that he already has, tries to sell them on doing a verse with Lil Dicky instead of Rick Ross, because obviously Dave is right there. And obviously GaTa doing this so he can still keep this Rick Ross deal as a potential down the road. And, of course, they have no idea who Dave is. They have no idea who Lil Dicky is. And Dave, of course, mildly offended at the fact that they don't know who he is. And GaTa tells him to look him up, look up Lil Dicky's videos, check out his numbers. They do. They're like, oh, he's legit. He's got numbers, right? So GaTa says he checked out their music and he thinks it's good, right? But what they need, their content isn't good. Like their stuff is good, but their content's not good. They're talking about guns and killing, and GaTa tells them that they could easily go to jail for their lyrics, which I don't know if you can actually, if people have gone to jail for their lyrics yet, but considering we are going into an era where places like Florida, you can be sued for calling somebody a fascist or a racist, because fascists and racists are such snowflakes that they passed a law that can allow them to sue anybody that calls them that, whether it's in person or online. So be careful who you call a fascist or a racist to online, because if they live in Florida, they can legally sue you. But as far as going to jail, but it's an interesting argument GaTa is making, because right, they're kind of pissed off at people's narrow-minded views that people have of their work, right? It's like, well, we're talking about more than that. And GaTa's like, listen, if you put Lil Dicky on a verse, then you can claim that the song is comedy. It's a parody, right? So you can get away with saying it because Lil Dicky, because he is the parody artist, right? All of his songs are parodies and comedy, which Dave kind of rolls his eyes like, it's more than that, but like he sees where he's going, right? But having him on their track will protect them in court. And then you see Dave kind of realizing what GaTa's doing and reluctantly goes along with it. And they ask Dave to show them what he's got. And Dave kind of goes in and he's like, I kind of want to bring back the old school style of rapping. Like, hey, my name is Dave and I'm here to say, and they're like, this is, you're not a rapper. What is this? Are you serious right now? Clearly like Dave making a joke about the worst kind of white guy rap that you could have. And Dave's like, no, I'm joking. Set up that mic. Let's do this thing, right? So they do. Dave does his rap thing. They do a skit. they're all bonding. They're having fun, right? They give Dave the chain back at the end, right? And Dave tells the engineer that he'll work with him anytime. He loves his work. He'll work with him anytime. And then Dave says that they can still hang out if they want to hang out. And they're like, yeah, let's do this, right? They're all smoking weed, hanging out, making music. Great time. Like, they're all bonding. Everything's in the past. Completely different situation. Then cut to Dave and his crew showing up, along with GaTa's friend, showing up to Rick Ross's brunch. And Dave is nervous, having Rick's chain even in his pocket, right? It's already caused him enough. Then he notices the guy that robbed them, followed him on IG. So he's stoked about it. It's like, oh, he followed me on IG. And then Dave realizes that GaTa's friend is a mutual friend of this guy. So GaTa's friend is actually friends with these people already. So GaTa knows this dude set him up, right? GaTa leaves to go handle something real quick, right? He needs to go have a little talk with his friend. Cut to Killer Mike showing up, and Dave looks at his phone, right? And he's got notes on his phone. And the title of these notes, I paused this because it just shows up quickly as Dave glances at his phone. And the title of the notes are Why Killer Mike is Wrong. And then in the notes, which I read, so I could read, I paused it so I could read it. Dave talks about being prejudiced and starts to list all the things they have in common. And he talks about activism and how Dave is, all for activism, but he's kind of working in a different kind of activism where he did a fundraiser for genital herpes, which is a very overlooked thing in culture, how most people have herpes, and like this is the kind of activism that Dave is doing. And he is also aware of politics, and Dave's trying to be more political, and it kind of ends with him mentioning Bernie before it goes to the second page. So we don't know what he's talking about as in relation to Bernie, but obviously bringing Bernie up as an example of the type of politics that he is for. So then Dave sees Usher and goes over and gushes over Usher. And Usher thinks he's being disrespectful at first, but then he's okay. And asks how Dave is doing. And Dave goes into some online beef, that he's having with Killer Mike, and asks for Usher's advice. Usher says to go beat his ass, right? And Dave, wouldn't feel comfortable fighting any black man that's over 14 years old. And suggests maybe that he debate Killer Mike. And Usher's like, hell no, man. He's really, really smart. You don't want to debate him. And then Usher implies that how Usher felt criticized by people thinking he was a bitch. And that, what he did to make sure people never treated him like that again, right? Dave asks if he fought, and he fought other men. And Usher's just like, this is not the conversation I'm having, and he just leaves. So then you have GaTa walking over to where his friend is at, this photo shoot set up at the party, right? This rig thing, people could get up on stage and get their pictures taken, whatever. And his buddy's up there. He's about to shoot the money guns, the little guns that shoot money out. His friend Stretch, and he tells him, they go back to back, GaTa's about to get pictures taken with him or whatever. And he tells him that he needs the money, and that he lets him know. He confronts him, and his friend tells him that he needed money but didn't know how to ask GaTa for it. And GaTa tells him that they're done as friends and walks off. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to promote. Are you looking for a way to take your love of The Ray Taylor Show to the next level? Look no further than Inspired Disorder Plus. As a member, you'll get access to a whole host of amazing perks, including the full week of shows, ad-free in both audio and video versions, a live painting archive, early access to the many faces, members-only discounts and deals, a podcast back catalog with over 600 episodes. But that's not all. As a member, you'll get access to my personal blog as well as my creative writing. You'll also get the chance to ask me anything you want. With all of these benefits and more, Inspired Disorder Plus is a must-have for any fan of The Ray Taylor Show. So don't wait. Go sign up now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and start enjoying all of the amazing perks of the membership. And now, let's get back to the show. And now GaTa and Dave is at the bar now getting some drinks, and while looking at his notes again for why Killer Mike is wrong. And GaTa walks up, and Dave asks how it all went. GaTa tells him that Dave is so lucky to be him. No one is asking him for anything. He's got no weight on his shoulders. And Dave is kind of more focused on an eyelash that's on GaTa's face. So he goes and takes it, and he tells him to make a wish. And GaTa wishes that he wasn't there right now. And Dave wouldn't understand the situation that GaTa's in. And obviously, Dave would. He probably does understand more than GaTa even knows, considering the fact that, GaTa asked for him for money in the past. Dave is paying for Mike and Els and Emma and GaTa. Like, he's funding this whole thing, I would imagine. So there's probably... But still, Dave comes from a much more privileged place. I mean, his parents helped pay for, he had his bar mitzvah money that he used to get this track that was the key thing for him. So in a lot of ways, GaTa is right. But Rick Ross shows up, and Dave tells GaTa that they could finally give him his chain back, and GaTa can ask him about the track, right? But GaTa says he is not in that right mindset right now. And Dave does what GaTa has done for Dave the entire time, as GaTa is Dave's hype man. And Dave hypes up GaTa, gives him a pep talk, right? Telling him, this is your dream. What? And you're just going to let your dream go? Like you said, when they were walking into to go, talk to the guys who stole the chain, right? You fall down 7 times, you get up 8 times, right? This is your 8th time, right? Dave is giving him this pep talk, and you see GaTa like kind of getting pumped up. So they go back. GaTa gives Rick this chain back, and Dave starts to pump up GaTa to Rick, right? Kind of embarrassing GaTa in the process in some ways, right? Dave is, definitely trying his best to be a hype man, but he's also Dave, and it's very awkward, and it's embarrassing. But GaTa goes in and brings up a time back when GaTa lived in Georgia, and he hooked Rick up selling him some weed, and Rick remembers that, and it saved his party that he got the weed for. So he remembers that. So instantly they start kind of hitting it off, and they start talking. And Dave is kind of watching it all happen, right? And his mind is blown as GaTa kind of picks up the slack and runs with it. And GaTa steps up, and it's getting into it with Rick Ross. They're going back and forth. So Rick invites GaTa over to work on some stuff, and GaTa's like, well, I actually have a track that you worked on a while back that I did some work on, so maybe we could talk about that, right? So he brings it up, and it's the most organic, casual way for him to bring it up, as opposed to however Dave would have brought it up. So Dave just kind of slowly backs away, and of course, as Dave is backing away, he backs directly into Killer Mike, right? And Dave goes into like how he's been stewing over the tweet that he gave all day. And of course, Killer Mike has no idea what Dave is talking about, has no idea who he is. And he tells him that he just didn't know who he was, and his friends were turning him on to his stuff. So that's what, like, it was a legitimate question that Killer Mike didn't know who this guy was. It wasn't like, and of course Dave just assumes everybody knows who he is. Like, he's the biggest superstar in his own head. Whether he's going to get the chain from the guys who robbed him or even Killer Mike, he just assumes everybody knows who he is, and then perceives whatever they say from that kind of perspective. That is wrong. So, Mike noticed him talking about wanting to do good by the black community, and asked Dave if he would donate $15,000 to a black bank. And Dave mishears him and thinks he said 50,000. But Mike says he'll take the 50K. I meant 15, but if you want to do 50, we can do 50, right? That would be a good, like, you want to talk about having a good foot forward doing to help the black community. This is a great way to do it, right? And Dave tries to get out of it, but quickly changes course immediately, like just abandoning trying to get out of it. Like, he's already stuck in this for 50K, which is what he just got out of paying for the Rick Ross necklace, and now he's going to be paying this 50K, which he says he doesn't have, or it's not $5 like GaTa referred to the 50K feeling. And then Killer Mike's like, or Mike tells him that his chain, the chain that he's wearing, costs more than 50K. And then Dave kind of mentions how expensive chains are, after realizing how expensive they are. And Mike lets him know that they're a symbol of a lot more than just that to the black community, right? And but Mike fucks with Dave because Dave fucks with the black community, and happily shakes his hand and walks away. He's like, "Oh, great, 50K, peace out, good to meet you. I'm gonna go hang out with people I know." And then he calls him 50 Band Man, and Dave's like, "Yeah, I'm the 50 Band Man. That's what I'm gonna be doing." And he can't believe he ended up paying the 50K anyway, but at least it's going to a better cause than what it would have gone to before. And then Dave sees GaTa and Rick Ross and everybody over there dancing, so he goes over, and they have a good time, and everybody has a good time at this brunch, and that's how the episode ends, right? The instant Dave mentioned the necklace, I knew it was going to be a matter of time before it either got lost or stolen or damaged. Something bad was going to happen to this necklace. GaTa knew exactly how to track it down, right, and made the right deal to get Dave to rap instead of giving up his Rick Ross. So GaTa navigated the entire situation perfectly. The parts of the episode with the rest of the crew, Mike, Els, and Emma's, felt super tacked on. Like, could have easily been cut out. I'm glad it wasn't. I love those characters. I almost wish this show involved all of the characters more instead of, it kind of just seems to be clearly focused on Dave, but so far anyway, each episode seems to be Dave and one of them, right? This was Dave and GaTa. Last episode was mostly Dave and Emma. So first episode was kind of Dave on his own, but maybe next episode will be Dave and Els or Dave and Mike. But I like all the characters, and I love to see them in the show, and they always bring a fun flavor to the show. So it kind of felt tacked on in this episode, but still a great moment, especially when Mike gets Els the barber when he wakes up the next morning. It's a very sweet moment. So anyway, I'm glad all that stuff went down, and we'll see if this thing with Els not having money plays into the show more as we go. Like, if he wants, I'm surprised that he's not getting money to be the DJ on this tour. Is actually kind of a surprising thing. But regardless, it's also great to see Dave be GaTa's hype man for once. They, at the end of last episode, very emotional last episode last season, where they really bonded over both being named Dave. So it's nice to see that Dave is finally there for his friend GaTa in this episode, giving him the pep talk, right? Even though it was corny, the introduction with Rick Ross and all that, GaTa stepped up, knew exactly how to open up and get his foot in the door to talk about that weed hookup back in the day. Also cool to see Dave step up and record with the Robbers. It's always fun to see Dave rap in all of these episodes. It seems like they've added a lot more of that to the show as well. Like every episode has, and it's usually been in music video form or making of music video form, but it's nice to see in this him recording. So overall, more focus on Dave in this season, seemingly than last season, where it seemed like maybe in past seasons, there was the episode where it was just Els and Emma, where they hooked up to one time. There's the one episode where it's kind of Mike on his own on his birthday, which is kind of a depressing episode, but that season was also emotionally all over the place. But it's kind of good. So since Dave seems okay, like he has the ability to donate $50K, I kind of wonder what Dave's finances are really like, right? Because it's not like he only had $50K and now he's giving this bank $50K. Like he clearly has more than that, but how much more? It's still, I'm sure it's still amazing, still $50K. So interesting, but because he's still a lower level fame. Like he's just now, this is his first tour. He has one album out. It's not. He's just very new in the industry, despite the fact that he thinks everybody should know who he is. Next episode is episode 4 from season 3, titled Wisconsin. Allie joins the tour to rekindle an old flame, while Dave looks to ignite a new one. Written by Emma Wisdom and directed by Sinclair. So I have a feeling Allie is from Wisconsin and an old flame is somebody from her hometown. And maybe Dave, maybe one of Allie's friends or something is. But interesting that she's going on tour. I love that character. Obviously, since they broke up, like Dave is the best Dave when he is around Allie. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dave we get in the next episode. But either way, that is a wrap for this episode of the Dave Recap Podcast for today. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you come back next Tuesday for more laughs, insight, and opinions on this awesome show. And join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform or over on youtube.com/inspireddisorder if you are watching these episodes. Until then, I'm Ray Taylor, reminding you to keep it real, keep it funny, and keep watching Dave.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.